Hey there. Tonight, we won't be following the paths of kings, lords, or noble knights. Instead, we're slipping into the shadows, walking alongside the people who kept the castle alive, yet were rarely noticed. The scullery maid, scrubbing before the sun even rises. The spit boy, turning meat until his arms grow numb. The laundress, fighting the cold with hands raw from frozen water. The night guard, pacing silently while the rest of the world sleeps. This isn't a story of glory or grandeur. It's one of endless labor, aching muscles, and quiet endurance. 10 lives, 10 days, all under the same roof, yet existing in entirely separate worlds. If this kind of gentle, grounded history helps you relax, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly brings you a little peace. And I'd love it if you left a comment letting me know where you're listening from and what time it is. It always amazes me how far these quiet little stories can travel. So take a deep breath, let the fire crackle, dim the lights, and let's begin. Not with royalty, but with those who live beneath them. Good morning. You're awake. Not because you've slept well. Don't be silly. But because the stone floor that served as your bed has finally stolen the last bit of warmth from your body. Oh, and the cook stepped on you twice. That's just how mornings start when you're at the very bottom of the food chain in a medieval castle. Welcome to the exciting life of a scullery maid. You are unpaid, unwashed, and unnoticed, except when something needs to be scrubbed or someone is looking for a scapegoat. You sleep beside the hearth because it's the only place in the kitchen that's even remotely warm. And when I say warm, I mean slightly less freezing than the courtyard outside. Your bed is a sack stuffed with straw so old it feels like it belonged to someone's great-grandparents. It smells like burnt fat, wet firewood, and crushed dreams. Your shift, your one and only piece of clothing, is rough wool, undyed, and serves as both pajamas and uniform. It's been boiled clean maybe twice this year, maybe once, possibly never. You rise before the sun, before the roosters. Honestly, it feels like before God himself. Why? Because every task that must be finished before the nobles wake, fire, water, bread, cleaning, all fall on you. Well, technically, not only you, but let's be honest, the other girls have mastered the art of hiding when work gets handed out. You haven't learned that trick yet. Or maybe you were just born without the gift of slipperiness. The hearth is cold. The embers died overnight. That's a disaster. A scullery without fire is like a knight without armor. Still there, but mostly just sad. So, you drag yourself outside into the pitch-black courtyard. Barefoot. Why? Because your shoes crumbled away last spring and were recycled into draft stoppers for the kitchen door. The flagstones cut into your feet, slick and jagged with rain. You collect kindling with numb fingers that can't even feel the splinters. Back inside, you kneel by the hearth, coaxing a flame from damp wood and sheer frustration. At last, the fire catches. The crackling warmth spreads, and you hold your hands above it until your fingers no longer look like something from a corpse. Now you're ready for the next job, water, because no, the castle doesn't have plumbing. It has you. You carry bucket after bucket from the well, gallons of heavy sloshing water balanced across your narrow shoulders with a wooden yoke. The trips blur together, arms burning, back screaming, knees shaking like boiled barley. And this is all before breakfast. By the time the rest of the kitchen staff trickles in, stretching, yawning, scratching, you're already on your 4th trip to the well. No one thanks you. No one even notices you. To them, You're just furniture with legs. And then, like a thunderclap, the cook bursts in. She's already sweating, already furious, and already swinging her wooden spoon like a weapon. That spoon, by the way, doubles as a disciplinary tool. She barks about the stew pot still being crusty, and that's your signal. It's scrubbing time. So you scrub, and scrub, and scrub, until your knuckles split open. There's no soap, of course. That's a luxury reserved for the wealthy or the sinful. You use ashes, sand, and lye. When someone remembers to prepare it, the lye burns, the ash grinds. Over time, you've developed something halfway between a callus and a chemical burn on your right hand. Your left hand, worse. The scullery is less a workplace and more a chamber of punishment. There's no ventilation. The one window is clogged shut with soot. The air is thick with the smell of overboiled meat. And something else, best left unidentified. Most of your day is spent hunched over basins, scraping grease from pits, cleaning trenches, and batting rats off the tables with a ladle. Speaking of rats, let's be clear, they run this kitchen. You just survive in it. By mid-morning, your stomach is gnawing at itself. You haven't eaten. Tucked away in your apron is a heel of bread, hard, dry, chalky. You nibble it in secret, hidden in the doorway, trying not to look guilty. You fail. A kitchen maid catches you, reports you, and suddenly you're reassigned. Latrine pot duty for the rest of the week. Congratulations. Later, you're promoted to onion duty, which is just a polite way of saying cry for 2 hours straight. You chop onions until your eyes stream like rivers. Nobody asks if you're okay. Nobody needs to. Everyone assumes you're just weeping over your entire existence. Around noon, the nobles sit for their first meal of the day. You carry in dishes, placing each one exactly where you've been told, and you never, ever make eye contact. Nobles dislike being reminded that servants have eyes, or faces, or thoughts at all. You hold a pitcher for an hour, standing stock still. Nobody ever asks you to pour. Your arms go numb. That's normal. Then, once the nobles finish, it's back to cleaning. The tables are chaos. Greasy trenches slick with gravy, bones tossed on the floor, half-eaten pies, chewed grapes, and something that might once have been a fish. You scrape everything into the slop bucket. Servants aren't allowed to keep scraps, but sometimes you risk it. A crust here, a sliver there, just enough to stay upright. The afternoon passes in a blur. More water to haul, more roots to peel, mopping, sweeping, getting blamed for the dog vomiting in the solar, a room you've never even set foot in. Doesn't matter. Somehow, you are guilty in spirit. As the sun sinks, dinner prep begins. The kitchen roars to life. Hotter, louder, smoky. The hearth blazes. The rafters fill with haze. Someone drops a pot. The cook screams. Flames nearly spark. You smother them with your apron and keep going. Finally, you're allowed to eat again. A single bowl, passed between 5 girls. The stew is mostly water, with the occasional root, a lone grain of barley, and one questionable chunk that might be squirrel. Doesn't matter, you eat it anyway. Food is food. And then, dinner for the nobles. Once again you stand nearby, silent, invisible, part of the backdrop in someone else's performance. Your feet ache. Your back feels locked in place. And you haven't spoken in hours, except for the familiar lines. Yes, cook. Sorry, cook. Or maybe you say, it won't happen again, cook. Whether you know what went wrong or not doesn't matter. Night falls. The dishes return. More scrubbing. Bones cling to the pans like medieval cement. Your hands tremble now, not from cold, but from sheer exhaustion. Finally, you're dismissed with nothing more than a grunt. You crawl back to your sack near the hearth. The fire has burned down to faint glowing embers. You press your body against the stone for what little warmth remains. Your tunic is still damp. You smell of smoke, onions, and fatigue. Someone beside you is already asleep. Someone else is quietly crying. You don't ask who. You don't want to know. You lay there for a while, caught somewhere between wakefulness and sleep, thinking about how you ended up here, because the truth is, you didn't choose this life. No one chooses to be a scullery maid. You were born into it. Your mother worked in the dairy until her back gave out. Your aunt did laundry until the fever from the river finally claimed her. Now it's your turn. This is your inheritance, suffering passed down like a family heirloom or a ladle nobody asked for. There's no climbing up from here. You don't become the cook. You don't marry the steward. You don't get promoted to lady's maid, sitting by candlelight, learning embroidery. That's a fairy tale. The truth? You get older, your hands grow stiffer. Eventually you can't scrub fast enough, and then they replace you with someone younger, cheaper, less likely to nod off while standing. So you survive by paying attention to the little things. The rhythm of the kitchen, the shifting alliances between servants, the unspoken rules that keep you alive. Never correct the cook. Always share the driest piece of bread with the girl who's bleeding. Stay clear of the steward, and if you hear a noble's footsteps behind you, move immediately or risk being trampled, whether physically or socially. There's gossip, of course. It's the only currency servants own. One whispers that the chamberlain is sneaking around with a lady in waiting. Another swears he's in love with the choir boy instead. Someone claims they saw the red-bearded knight eat 5 figs and vomit into his own helmet. That one's probably true. When there's a wedding or a feast, the castle explodes into chaos. 3 times the guests, 10 times the work. No time for anything but frantic scrubbing and desperate prayers. The nobles celebrate. You blister. By the end of those nights, you're not tired. You're hollow. And then comes winter, the worst of all. You drag yourself through your own cough, your own fever. You wear the same shift for weeks, layering scraps of fabric wherever you can. Some days, the water in your bucket freezes solid before you even make it back inside. You keep going anyway, because if you stop, someone else will take your place. And because you've been told again and again that suffering without complaint is a virtue, especially for girls like you. You used to have a name. People used to say it. Now you're just girl, or you there. You're not special. You're not a hero. You're just another invisible cog in the castle machine. And yet, the castle only runs because of you. Because you rise before dawn. Because you know which hinge squeaks and how to silence it with goose grease. Because you remember which bucket is clean and which one is full of mop water. Because you scrub the pans until they shine like coins you'll never hold. No statue will ever be carved for you. No ballad sung in your honor. But if you vanish tomorrow, the kitchen would collapse within a week. You don't sleep well. Your body twitches. Your joints ache. Your dreams are strange and half-formed. Sometimes you see green fields, sometimes boats sailing away, and sometimes nothing at all. You wake with your mouth dry, your arms heavy, and no choice but to begin again. Another day, just like the last. Nobody notices, except maybe Lord Crumbs. You're the spit boy. Congratulations. Or condolences. depends on how much you enjoy spending your life slowly rotating meat in front of an open flame, wondering how you ended up here. You're somewhere between 8 and 12 years old, small enough to squeeze under the heart, but old enough not to cry every time the fire burns your skin. Maybe you're an orphan. Maybe you were sold. Or maybe your parents were just very persuasive when they told you this was a great opportunity. Your job is simple in theory. Sit by the great kitchen hearth. Perch on a stool if you're lucky enough to have one. And turn the spit clockwise, steady, all day long. Until someone decides you're doing it wrong. Too fast, too slow, not dignified enough. Once, someone even accused you of cheekiness because you blinked too often. It's hot in a way that feels unnatural, like living inside a loaf of bread. Halfway through baking, your cheeks stay flushed, your hair is always damp, your tunic, scorched at the edges, reeks of every animal that's ever been roasted here. You used to love the smell of duck. Now, it makes you sick. Burns are constant, blisters across your hands, arms, even your face. The kitchen doesn't care. If you burn your palm, wrap it in a rag. If your eyebrows vanish in the fire, grow new ones. If you faint, make sure you fall somewhere that doesn't spill food. Breaks don't exist. The meat doesn't care if your arms are shaking. The fire doesn't care if sweat blinds you. And the nobles? They expect their goose to spin at the perfect pace, or heads will roll. Metaphorically, and sometimes not, depending on the steward's mood and how much wine he's had. Feast days are the worst. The spit grows longer, heavier. Whole pigs, once even an entire deer. It took 2 of you to turn it. Your partner had a lazy eye and a cruel streak. He'd let go of the crank at random just to watch you panic. You haven't seen him in a while. Rumor says he's been sent to the kennels. You hope the dogs treat him better than he treated you. Hours pass. Your knees go numb. Your back knots. Once, your foot fell asleep so badly, you thought you'd gone lame. The steward called you dramatic and hurled a turnip at your head. The kitchen itself is chaos. Steam, shouting, pots boiling over, servants colliding with trays of oysters and jugs of wine. You're the still point in the storm, invisible, unthanked, forgotten. But if the roast turns out uneven, they'll all remember the boy who ruined it. When the meat is finally declared ready, you help ease it off the spit. The fat hisses, grease drips. If you flinch, you're scolded. If you hesitate, you're slapped. Then it's straight on to the next roast, or the stew, or the pies, or that bubbling cauldron that smells like onions, gone sour, and despair itself. You never really know what time it is. Your whole life is firelight and hunger. Sometimes, if fortune smiles, someone tosses you a bone, literally, half gnawed, with just enough scraps clinging to pretend it's lunch. You crouch in the corner, gnawing like an animal. Then you wipe your hands, take hold of the crank again, and keep turning. By late afternoon, the fire has cooked your cheeks, sticked red, and split your lips dry. Your hands are blackened with soot. You've swallowed so much smoke that your cough sounds like it belongs to someone 4 times your age. And still you're turning. Above you, plates clatter, goblets ring, and nobles laugh. Their voices drift down from the hall. You'll never see. You're not allowed there. That world is bright, polished, full of soft chairs and white bread. Your job is to exist so they don't have to think about what keeps the feast turning. When the eating finally stops, your work doesn't. It simply shifts. Now you haul trays of half-eaten meat back down to the kitchen. You don't eat it, you scrape it. Bones go into the slop bucket. Goblets get rinsed. The heavy spit is dragged into the scullery for cleaning. Your shoulder screams, a blister bursts under your grip, and you pretend not to feel it. Then someone shouts, "The Lord wants a roast for his hounds." And so you begin again. Tonight, the dogs will feast better than you. It's late now. Your tunic clings to your skin. Your hair is stiff with grease. Your hands shake, not just from exhaustion, but from hunger too. At last, a bowl of pottage, thin, watery, with a few tired turnips floating in it. You crouch in the corner and slurp it down. Nobody talks. There's nothing to say. Everyone's too drained to even pretend they're human. When you finish, there's still work. The knives dulled from hacking bone, the spit crusted with fat, the hooks. Everything must be spotless before the steward's inspection. If he finds a smear, you'll be licking it clean with your own spit if you're lucky. If not, you'll be scrubbing the Lord's privy floor come morning. Night settles like smoke. The clatter fades. The cook finally stops shouting. You sit by the dying hearth, too sore to lie down, too restless to sleep. A rat scurries past. You don't move. You're too tired to care. Your mind drifts backward. Before all this, you think you were a shepherd's son. Or maybe your parents ran a mill. Perhaps they still do. Perhaps they've forgotten you. Or maybe they simply couldn't afford another mouth. Desperation is its own kind of permission. There's no way out, not for you. The best you can hope is that your burns heal straight, that your back doesn't twist too soon. If you survive long enough, maybe, just maybe, you'll become an assistant cook by 20. That's the dream. Winter is the cruelest season. The castle walls are thick, but drafts cut through like knives. Your spot by the hearth should be a blessing. Warmth, fire, light. But it isn't warmth, it's exposure. One half of you roasts, while the other half freezes. You turn like the meat itself, a human kebab of frostbite and fatigue. Shoes, you don't have them, just rags wrapped around your feet, already damp. Each step makes your knees creak like rusted hinges. When you crouch, you wonder if you'll ever stand again. Some days, your fingers are so stiff from burns and cold, you can't tell if you're gripping the spit or if it's gripping you. Health is a luxury you've long since lost. Your cough isn't an illness anymore. It's part of your identity. Your skin blisters, peels, then cracks in the cold. The smell of scorched fat clings to you always. In theory, it should be appetizing. In reality, it makes people step aside. And your arm, your poor arm, burns so many times that the flesh itself resembles overcooked pork. No one offers you a remedy. The apothecary is for nobles. You're told to rub pig lard on your burns and keep turning. The kitchen has its hierarchy, and you're buried at the very bottom. Beneath the maids, beneath the butcher's boy, beneath even the lad who fetches eggs, lower than the dog who begs for scraps. At least it gets bones. Sometimes the steward nods at you. That's the highlight of your week. And sometimes, though not often, you wonder what your life might look like if you left. Then you remember, spit boys don't leave. They either grow into other kinds of servants, or they don't grow up at all. So you settle back by the hearth, knees folded, arms wrapped tight around yourself. The flames have dimmed, but yesterday's blisters still sting where they've split open. You stare into the coals and try to imagine what it might feel like to be warm without hurting. You don't know. You've never known. Outside snow falls, inside fat sizzles, and between them sits you, forgotten, and ignored, turning, always turning. Every castle, every town needs someone to deal with the filth, the waste, the things no one wants to acknowledge, but everyone produces. That's you now. You're a gong farmer, the polite medieval way of saying professional remover of human muck. If it lands in the chamber pot, you carry it out. If it drops into the latrine, you haul it back up again. You're the bottom of the bottom, scraping the cesspit of society, literally. It pays better than some jobs, true, but that's only because no one else will touch it. They'd rather starve. You've learned to live with the stink, or at least, you've learned there's no escaping it. Your shift begins at night, not because you prefer it, but because no one wants to see or smell you by daylight. You're banned from markets until you've bathed. Not that bathing helps. The stink doesn't wash off. It crawls into your skin, settles in your lungs, clings to your hair. You're the smell now. People cross the street when they see you coming. They look away and pretend you aren't there. Your tools, a rake, a bucket, a shovel, your uniform, thick wool layered with moss, scraps of cloth, anything you can stuff in to try to block the stench. It doesn't work. The smell always finds a way. Your task is simple. Go to the cesspits. Dig them out before they overflow into the streets. Months of compacted, fermented, half-liquid remains. Everything the castle or town has dumped into the earth for half a year. And to do that job, you climb down. Yes, down. Into the pit. Ladder if you're lucky. Rope if someone remembers. More often, it's just you and the wall. The stench smashes into you like a wall of hot bricks, soaked in sewage and despair. It burns your eyes, coats your tongue, fills your lungs until breathing feels like swallowing rot. You try breathing through your mouth. That's worse. Now you can taste it. Boots squelch as you descend. The ground is soft in some places, ankle deep, in others, knee deep, and in your imagination, bottomless. You rake through it all. The fresh layers are bad enough, but it's the older ones, the ones compacted, fermented, forgotten, that bring the nightmares. Gray sludge that sticks like tar, black crusts that crack and ooze, pockets of foul liquid that bubble and shift, as if they're considering becoming alive. You don't ask questions. You dig. And what exactly are you digging through? Human waste, mostly. Animal waste, too. Broken chamber pots. Straw soaked with fluids you don't want to name. Bits of food. Scraps of cloth. The occasional dead rat. And sometimes other things. Once you found an entire chicken. You still don't know how it got down there. You buried it with some dignity. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you find coins dropped from nobles who used the latrine in a hurry. You pocket them. You've earned it. Once your bucket is full, you haul it out. You dump it into your cart. An open wooden box on wheels that cacks like it resents you. You repeat this process a dozen times. More if the castle's had a feast recently. And you always do it at night, under torchlight, because the people above don't want to see the cost of their comfort. You work in silence. No one talks in a cesspit. Once your cart is full of what medieval records gently call night soil, you roll it through the quiet streets. The wheels leave tracks. The air behind you wilts. If anyone sees you, they gag or mutter a prayer. One kid once threw a cabbage at you. You threw something back. You're not proud of it. You head outside, the town walls to the dumping grounds, usually near the fields, because guess what? Waste gets reused. All that filth you collect, it becomes fertilizer. The very same nobles who won't look you in the eye are unknowingly eating vegetables grown in their own refuse. That's what you call medieval recycling. By early morning, you're done dumping, but not done working. You return to clean your tools, which means rinsing them in a pond that's already halfway ruined. You wash your boots, your clothes, your hands. It doesn't help. The stink clings. Your neighbors can always tell what shift you've worked. Some won't sit near you at meals. Some won't even share a table. You try not to let it get to you. You tell yourself, it's honest work, important work. If you stopped showing up, the entire castle would flood in filth within the week. You're not a hero, but you're what stands between society and ankle-deep disaster. You eat alone most days. Your bread tastes like ash, not because it's burned, just because everything smells like ash. And worse now, you drink ale because the water's not safe, and because, frankly, being sober around your own job is a kind of masochism. Winter is the worst, not because it's cold, though it is, but because everything freezes. The waste freezes, your hands freeze, your breath turns to steam and then to regret. You've got to hack through icy crusts with a shovel just to reach the warm, steaming horror beneath. It's the only time you'll ever see something warm and be upset about it. Summer isn't better. Summer bakes everything. The stench gets airborne. Flies swarm. Wasps show up for reasons you don't understand. You sweat so much it soaks through your shoes. You've tried everything to mask the smell. Vinegar, crushed herbs, even rubbing yourself with mint leaves. All it does is make the stench floral. People joke about you behind your back. Smells like a gong farmer is an insult. Some people assume you're stupid.